Hello and welcome to Sox Optional. I'm your host Jesse Pollock along with Memorial Cup and World Junior Champion gold medalist Sherry Basson. Sherry, you're a little more injured than you appear right now. Your right wrist kind of looks like a bowling pin. What happened?
Well, can you imagine? I was curling, telling a story. Couldn't imagine me telling a story, could you? And so, anyway, I'm telling the story and I'm backing up and there was a rock or something there and I fell backwards and didn't get it. When I hit the ice on my back and I wanted to protect my head, and I brought my arms back to protect me and I banged my wrist and elbow, and result is a fracture, and I don't want to talk about it because it's dumb, and we'll get through it.
All right. You're quite the warrior. I'm sure you experienced a couple of those back in your days playing hockey.
Yes.
But Sherry, the prospect game just happened in Quebec City.
The prospect game was quite a game. But I don't really care. There was something more important, something very, very drastic, very dehumanizing, awful. I don't know the descriptions.
And although the news has spread throughout Canada, if our listeners are not aware, 6 Muslim men were shot dead in a mosque, and many were left injured.
Number of injured, some critically, by somebody premeditated. This is the kind of hatred that's going on here. This was premeditation. Going into a mosque, going into a place of worship by a particular religion, by a commitment there to kill people. Think about the hatred. When we talk about Black Lives Matter, it just happened in the States where they went into an all-black church and killed people because of their color or religion. There's such deep hatred. What kind of a world are we coming up in here? You're a young person here now. Where is our compassion? Where is our respect for human decency? Our expectation of human decency? Our expectation, our understanding, our respect. Because you happen to have you're a different religion or a different color or a different size, or a different shape. Where is all this deep-seated prejudice coming from? Which we can't. I happen to be, I happen to be Jewish, and everybody's proud of their identity. And I belong to a temple here in Temple Emmanuel in Toronto here, and I have our rabbi here who is just brilliant and compassionate and incisive, who is always talking to us about, having compassion for the underdog. I remember my father, before he passed away, God bless him, he lived till he was 97, he compared it to everybody has a different ladder. Just respect their ladder. And where I'm from, if you want respect, show respect. I'm not touting Judaism. I'm not touting being a Muslim or a Catholic or whatever, or Hindu or whatever. I'm talking about respect. I'm talking about understanding that people have different beliefs and different ideas.
But Sherry, I completely agree with what you're saying. However, there seems to always be people that are doing this. There's no real way to stop this. People are just naturally born like this. Is there any way to put an end to this?
Well, I happen to believe that there is a way to try and end it. We may never. There's always going to be some goofball. But when we're in the midst of company, where people are making some kind of a discriminatory remark or joke because someone's the wrong size or wrong shape or wrong color or different religion, we cannot just sit there and not talk about it. You can't just walk away and say, because then by your conduct, you're suggesting you agree. We forget you can make a contract by conduct. We can never let it be implied that we agree with these people because it's contrary. It's contrary to respect for human decency. And when we lose that, it's not a life anymore. Your way is not the only way. My way is not the only way. And that's what happens here. We get people believing that their way is the only way and prepared to take a life. I can't imagine killing anyone for any kind of a cause. I understand war. I understand in defense of what you're all about. But for premeditated thoughts, you're prepared to take people's lives because they happen to disagree or don't believe what you believe, or because of color or because of position. Not only unacceptable, it's so intolerable to think about that young people like yourself and our staff here that's putting together, that are going to go on and on and on here and going to be, with my age, you guys have to stand up and be heard. You have to not just say, oh, this was a real tragedy, I feel sorry. You got to make sure there's not another one of these dudes coming down the line, and got to take them on. And when you hear these things being discussed in crowds, you got to let them know what is right, okay? And that if you want respect, show respect.
And Sherry, I did my research about what the OHL teaches, and they have their own diversity program.
They do.
That they
Good
put
for
their,
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have a diversity program, and that's why I'm so proud of what goes on. And, when you did your research, there's a lot of programs there.
Partnership with mental health, respect in sport program, gambling policy, social mentoring policy, anti-bullying policy, tobacco product policy, and even a pornography policy. So Sherry, you spoke last week about how it's ridiculous to think that some of these OHL players aren't being treated well, but really they're being nurtured into real men, and that's extremely valuable.
Well, that's my point. Yeah, that's why I was so outraged. I'm so outraged that there would be an implication of some manner that these people are living off the backs of slaves and making a lot of money and don't care about them and don't understand. And that's a good term you used, Minion. Minion, that's a good term. Nurturing these young men to be good citizens in their community. That is a real good point. And that's why I was so incensed about this, that this implication, because I know a lot of the ownership. I know these people. I know them from Western Canada. I know them in Quebec. They really do care. And the reason they're involved, because they're involved in a sport that they love, and they're in it for the kids. And David Branch, who as I said last week, I was part of the chairman of the committee that hired him. Make no mistake, that's been part of his mantra since he took over. And it's always the players first. And it's always what's in the best interest of those players. And that's why I can't stand some of those implications. And do they have challenges? Sure. Do they trip and fall? Yes. But as you did your homework, you know that as the term you used, they're trying to nurture young people into be good men.
Much more valuable than money, especially at that age.
Sure. And I really do believe, and there's a couple of things that bug me about the league too. And they should, and they're challenges.
So Sherry, let's talk about what bugs you in the league then.
Well, I'll tell you what bugs me, a couple of things that I think they're going to have to. This is primarily a weekend league, and the reason it's a weekend league is because of their high school education and going to school. 80-some% of their games are played on the weekend. And it's all done in the interest of education. 99% of their players graduate from high school, eligible to go on to university and further their education or further whatever they want to do, okay? So it's primarily a weekend league. Consequently, they got to play 3 games in 3 nights, different times during the year. 3 games in 3 days. And you accept that. Like when the Erie Otters are on the road, they want to play 3 games because of their travel. And so consequently, one of the things I think they have to challenge themselves, and it's an easy thing to start to do, is if you're playing 3 games in 3 nights, the 3rd game can't be before 4 o'clock. These kids, we talk about how important rest is, and we talk about how important preparation is. There is no question in my mind, Minion, that they got to, without a question, address that 3rd game in 3 nights.
It's extremely unrealistic to think that the players' bodies should be going through this.
Absolutely. And that's a challenge. They're going to take a look at that. Branch doesn't let those things slide by.
And Mike Babcock just came out when the Leafs were awarded their little holiday, or whatever you want to call it. He said, I would rather not have this break. I would rather play less back-to-back games for the safety of our players.
Sure.
And do you think, Sherry, that a lot of the injuries that occur in the OHL contribute to the fact that they have to play 3 games in a row and even before 4 o'clock.
As a matter of fact, one of the things they were concerned about when they brought in automatic icing, and Branch kept it in Ontario for a long time, is kids getting tired, especially 3 games in 3 days, and you're racing for the puck, and people could get injured. And it was done. That was one of the responsibilities. So I'm confident that they're going to address this. I'm confident knowing Branch's value system. I'm confident he's going to tackle this.
Sherry, we talked before the show and you mentioned that the playoff format in the OHL is a bit ridiculous because, of course, it's regular format, 1-8, 1-8 in each division, but 5 of the best teams in the country, not just in the league, in the country, are set to play against one another in the same division. One of them will go to the OHL championship, and one of them is going to be knocked out in the first round.
And 2 of them in the second. And that I feel as strong about it as you do. Make no mistake. It was all done in the interest of geography and what's in the best interest of the players. But that's gone by now. Because I can understand it out west, because that is a geographical issue. I'm talking about the province of Ontario. I'm not talking about across the United States. There are issues about geography, and that's one of the offshoots that's going to happen. Okay, I understand that. But for Erie Otters to play the Sioux Greyhounds or the Ottawa 67s, the Erie Otters, their 3 closest teams are in the eastern side. Okay, Niagara, Hamilton, and Mississauga. So when you're talking about this travel and what we're going through, there is no question about it. So I believe it should be 1-16. 1-16. There's no question in my mind it should be 1-16. The objective of playoffs is to get the 2 best teams in the finals. And if it is a geographical issue about getting them there, then maybe they should subsidize some of these rounds where there's travel.
Okay, Sherry. So in the NHL, we've seen that the Central Division has been very, very strong in past years, and always 2 of the best teams in the league have to face each other in the first round. The geography is obviously a bit different in the NHL. There's further traveling, but do you think if there's a way to get around it, the NHL should implement a similar format?
I really do believe they got to get a look at that. Because eventually when they get to the finals, if it's New York playing the LA Kings, it's as far as you can go and travel. So eventually they're going to have to hit that travel issue. To me, I think the objective should be to get the 2 best teams in the finals. That's what it's all about. That's why they play an 82-game schedule to get into it. That's why the OHL, and I can understand in certain instances it is a challenge, and whether you can, and weighing in the best interests of the players. But I'm talking about the Ontario Hockey League. And I think in order to get the 2 best players in the finals, it's 1-16.
Okay, Cher. So we've talked a lot about the format, different rules in the OHL, but it's time to hear from one of its players. One of your old favorite players, Uncle Sherry.
Well, I'm a big fan of this guy, Dylan Strome, that we're going to have here. He's a special kid. He comes from a hockey family, you know what I mean? Won the scoring championship on the last game and the last day of the schedule. Got 6 points. So talk about meeting challenges and stuff like that, and I'm anxious to talk to him.
He's a 3rd overall draft pick by the Arizona Coyotes. We're now joined by Dylan Strome. Dylan, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Stromer.
Hey, Bats. How's it going?
How are you doing, buddy?
Pretty good.
Listen, Stromer, I'm talking about this hockey family, Stromer. I'm talking about your brother who just scored last night. We all know what a good player he is, and we know what he did in the Ontario Hockey League. Your brother played the night before in the top prospect, so he's going to be a high pick. I mean, this is in the family. We all know how good a player you are, and I know how good a person you are. So let me ask you this question. If you're playing a game against one of your brothers, who am I supposed to be betting on here? I'm getting concerned. I'm pretty loyal to you, but I'm worried about if I'm going to put all my weight on you that these guys are going to give it to you.
Well, I played against my older brother once this year, and it didn't go exactly well for me. He dashed me up, he scored, and it was my fault, and I didn't play for 4 games after that. So, if you want to bet, I think you bet on him right now, and hopefully in the next coming years, you can bet on me.
I think I can too. I think that's, you know what I mean? But that's got to be something living in that family here. I know how competitive all three you are. I wouldn't want your food bill. I wouldn't want your food bill. I don't know how your mom and dad are such good people, and I know them very, very well, but that food bill of yours, like, if it's the last piece of meat, your hand could get stung here by a fork, and that and so how about that? How about your mother must be relieved that they're all gone now. I mean, their food bill's down like 90%.
Yeah, she I think she enjoys hockey season for that reason. I think it takes a lot of stress off her, but definitely in the summer we rack up that food bill pretty high. I think my brother, this is the first year he moved out of the house, so he bought a house last summer. So it wasn't as bad as before, but the summer before that, we were all going into pretty serious seasons. Ryan was going into his second season in the NHL. I just got drafted, and Matt was coming up for his first year in the OHL. So that was probably our biggest summer. And my dad, he's no slouch. He eats a ton. So.
I know your dad too. Like you guys don't count calories at your dinner table. I can tell you that. So
no, that's for sure.
I know that for a fact. So that and they get. So now I'm going to have to talk to your mother. Now that 2 of them are making the big money, I got to make sure that you guys are contributing to that.
Oh, we will.
Okay, that's good because I know what you're about.
Years. Yeah, Dylan, you recently took sole possession of the Otters scoring record. Have you really taken a second to just step back and realize how incredible of an accomplishment that is? You just passed Brad Boyes, and really the impact that it's going to have on the rest of your team and something for them to strive for in the future.
Yeah, it's obviously a special accomplishment. I mean, I've been Otter for my 4th year now, and it's been some of the best times of my life. So to have a record kind of like that is just something that you don't even really think about. It doesn't even cross your mind when you first play your first couple of games. And I've been here for a long time, but like I said, it's been the best 4 years of my life. And Brad Boyes was nice enough to send me a nice little note. Coach played it in front of the whole team today, and he just said he was proud, and he obviously has some serious ties to Erie, and he obviously they won the championship here. So he said he just said what you got to do next. So obviously that's what the team's working towards. And I really believe that we can get there.
Well, Boise was a classy guy, as we know, but if somebody's going to take over his record, I like to see another classy guy do it, and you're a classy guy. So
thank you.
I like to see that. Never mind just being a hockey player.
Thanks.
So, Dylan, you were the captain of the Erie Otters, and you also captained Team Canada at this past World Junior Championship. And, of course, Canada lost to the USA in overtime in a devastating loss. I got to ask you, how were you able to recover from that and move forward and continue to focus on playing Otters hockey?
Yeah, I mean, you said overtime, so it was shootout.
Shootout. My mistake.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say that, Dylan, because last week we discussed how we hate the shootout, and Sherry in particular discussed how he hated the shootout because in overtime you guys really had Team USA on their heels.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, rules are rules, and not much we can do about that. But I think we had a good overtime, and the momentum was going our way. But at the same time, it's anyone's game in a shootout, and those are the rules. They've been in place, and it's unfortunate they had to change the 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 format to a 5-on-5, but that's the way it goes in tournaments like that. So there's nothing we can do about it. So just kind of gotta, like you said, I just gotta come back here and there's still a lot to work for. People say I don't have anything left to do as a junior, but obviously I've never won a NHL championship, never won a Memorial Cup, so I think I have lots to work for, lots to strive for, lots to help my teammates with. I think we got a good group of guys that have been to the finals, have been to the conference finals a couple times, and we want that championship. I think that's pretty obvious. We've had I think the most playoff games played in the last 3 years combined. So we're working towards something. We're working towards getting that championship for the city, and for all the guys that have been doing this for a long time, and so a lot of us can play pro. That's obviously our goal, and we want to win that championship.
Yeah, good for you, Stromer. But I got to tell you this: I'm against the shootout, and Canada's won it in a shootout. And I'm not taking the championship away from the U.S. I mean, they beat you in a round robin. They won, as you said, good on you. They won in the rules. But a team game should not be won in a shootout. I don't care. It should be one on the field. However they design it 3-on-3, it should be one on the ice, competing the same way that you put a team. You win as a team, you lose as a team. And I'm totally against the shootout. Totally.
Yeah. I agree.
So that, from that standpoint.
All right, Dylan, just to close out this phone call, I got to ask, what's your favorite Sherry Basson story that you've had with him personally?
Honestly, it's pretty funny you mentioned that because we were just talking about that on the bus about 20 minutes ago, about a couple of Bass stories we were talking about. I don't know. He says he likes to talk. That's obvious. We love to listen to him, but I think some of the stuff he says really does come up in your life a lot. And we were talking as a team. We were saying, one of his biggest quote is, if you want respect, show respect, and if you want love, show love. And you want guys in your team to respect you, you want guys in the league to respect you, and you want your peers to respect you, so you show them respect. And I think whenever you can, you hear that from a guy like Sherry, who's been around for a long time, and he'll tell you that he's been around for a long time. But whenever a guy can say something like that really sticks to you. I mean, I've probably heard him say 3 or 4 times, but it really does stick to you. And I think our teams use that a lot, and I'm definitely not afraid to tell people that Sherry's told me that, and I really like that little quote from him.
Well, Stromer, I appreciate that, but listen, I want to tell you, but it is because of that kind of respect. People respect you, and I appreciate you referring to that. But I love you guys a lot, and I expect to be following you in the 4th round, playing for the championship.
Thanks a lot, Pat. I really appreciate it.
Keep punching, buddy.
I just want to say something before we get off the phone. Dylan, still there?
Oh, he hung up.
Oh, I hung up. Well, what I was going to say to him was, hey, Dylan, if you're 5 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late.
That's right.
And don't ever forget that.
That's exactly right.
He's a classy kid, Sheriff.
He's really a classy kid, you know what I mean? And he's you don't win scoring championships without having ability. You don't go 3rd overall. And, Martin went 4th overall, and he's really showing it. And he will always, he's going to come through because he's such an intelligent player, and the players enjoy playing with him.
And Arizona's got a lot of good young players for him to be able to grow with, which is nice. But speaking of other classy players, Sherry, how about that interview that Ron MacLean had with some of the NHL's greats?
Let me tell you. Bobby Orr, Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Mary Lemieux. Now, if that's not... I have this special thought about this special idea that a lot of these players are great. They've got the ability, but they step into greatness because they're just good people. I mean, you take a look at these 4 guys. They're all got small-town values. I grew up in a small town. Whereas Dylan suggested, if you want love, show love. If you want respect, show respect. You got in trouble in a small town, you had more trouble with the community than you did with the police. Because you broke the bond. And these guys going on and talking about passion for the game. Passion to play. Talk about a love of the game. Okay? And I mean, these guys have demonstrated it. Wayne Gretzky, when he was a part owner of the Belleville Bulls and so forth, and after he graduated, would come to me and say, "Hi, Mr. Basson." I used to say, "That's my dad." No, Mr. Basson. And, Mary Lemieux, who played for me with the World Junior, played, Mark Messier, and Bobby Orr, when it comes,
Your
when
friend,
you look,
Uncle Sherry.
Oh, my God, and I'm proud to say it, you know what I mean? He used to come and shower in my offices there in Oshawa when he was a spokesman for General Motors when they had their shows there and stuff like that. I mean, when you look up class in the dictionary, they got their picture. All these guys. I mean, Mary Lemieux fighting cancer, and you know what I mean? And they're just special people. Let me tell you about Bobby Orr. When he's talking about passion and commitment, he was playing for the Oshawa Generals before I got there. And they're on a road. They come back from a road trip from Ottawa at 3:30 in the morning. And they used to have a General Motors League because the shift workers would get off around 2 o'clock, and they'd have a regular league for these guys to play in. Regular league, they'd come there. And they show up around 3:30, and Bobby notices that the ice is not being used. Everybody's tired and wants to go home. Guess what Orr did? Very quietly went back in the dressing room, put his stuff on, and skated for an hour. I mean, this is in the middle of the morning after a road trip where they just played a full game. That's passion. That's love of the game. That's wanting to get better. I could tell stories. I got stories to tell about these guys in the future. And so really, I just can't, I can't say enough about these guys. When I see this, when I see this, I really do understand now that I had this position, as I said to you earlier. I said it to you earlier. There's something about greatness in these players. They have this ability. They have such a passion for the game and a commitment. Their work ethic, they don't even talk about work ethic. It's love of playing. They never talk about going to work.
Are you seeing the same love and passion from the biggest stars in the game today as the ones that were in the interview? Which ones in particular? Well,
the guys that I've been in touch with are, obviously McDavid has a phenomenal passion. He's, people talk about he didn't have a good game this game and stuff like that. Yeah, he looks at himself. He's pushing himself all the time. But they don't look at it. They're not coming to work. People talk about their workload and all. They don't come to work. They come. They don't look at it as work, even though it is hard work. They have such a passion and love of the game. But I can name you all kinds of players. The Joe Sykes, we could go on and on and on, and a lot of the modern day players. You can tell that with Matthews. You can tell that with Brown by the way they play. You can tell that with Hyman. You can tell that with Marner. You can tell it with some of the older players. You can see that Kadri has picked up because the way he plays with a passion. And so, when people say they're going to work, they are going to work. Those are work clothes that they put on when they go to play and practice. But they don't look at it as that. They look at it as something they just love to do. I've always been respectful of people that loved what they were doing. Like a good surgeon, I want him to be passionate about what he's doing, especially if he's going to operate on me. Okay?
It's funny you say that, Sherry, because I saw an old video of you on YouTube.
Really?
And a certain doctor looked like he was performing some sort of procedure on you. Was it to get some more hair on the top of your head, or am I wrong?
That was really something new on the scene, and they used me as a guinea pig. Dr. Fremont, I'll never forget. I had no idea what it was, and it was, as a matter of fact.
Well, you still got the hair, and you're still looking good for a 77-year-old, so it clearly worked.
But, when you look at this, like I know your dad very well. I know your grandfather who practiced law in Winnipeg, and so they have a passion.
Of course.
Your grandfather's in his 80s still going to work because it's not work. It's a strive to be for perfection. And that's why the top athletes don't call it work. They call it love.
And Bobby Orr, in particular, had such a strong love for the game and worked so hard to become as good of a player as he was. And Steve Simmons, your friend Sherry, recently named Orr the number one player of the top 100 players that were listed. The number one, a defenseman over the great one, over Wayne Gretzky. Isn't that something?
Well, first of all, they're both great people.
Of course.
Okay, and they're both small town. Mr. Gretzky and Mrs. Gretzky did a real good job with Wayne Gretzky about his humility and his small town values. Listen to him talk. I think it was a tight call for him. But Bobby Orr is a hard guy. First of all, the fact that he is a defenseman, because that's the key to a team and so forth. That was a hard call for Simmons. But I got to, Simmons, you talk about preparation. You talk about putting a list together and putting your name on it and putting it on the line like we tell these athletes. He had to put hundreds of hours into that. Hundreds of hours of dissection. Because when you ask him a question about that list, you got to listen to him defend it. and what he knows about those players and what he's done and what he's looked into. That wasn't just, he didn't just sit down with the guys sitting on the couch with having a couple of beers and say, here's my list. Hundreds of hours went into that of preparation. But, hey, no matter how he did pick Bobby Orr, as you stated. And my theory about defensemen, okay, how important defense is to a team. Not that the Wayne Gretzky's and the Mark Messier's and the Mary Lemieux, they're going to take you to the promised land, and they all have. They all have. Whether it's World Championships or whether it's the NHL or wherever they've played. So that's going to happen. But don't ever underestimate the importance of defense.
All right, then, Sherry, why are forwards being given such big money, especially relative to a lot of the best defensemen in the league?
Yeah, but well, let me tell you this. Let me tell you about the good defense. A lot of forwards deserve the money. But take a look at all the good defensemen, the long terms they're on.
Duncan Keith in particular.
13-year contract. 13-year contract. Drew Doughty, what was his, 8 years? He's an 8-year contract. Aaron Ekblad just signed an 8-year deal. Do you think they want these guys around? Brent Seabrook was on an 8-year deal. Brent Burns is going to be 31 years old. They're talking about signing him to an 8-year deal.
Shea Weber,
a really great example. As a matter of fact, all these guys we've talked about, correct me if I'm wrong, are all junior graduates, okay, of the Canadian Hockey League. But Burnsy is who, by the way, I was listening to an interview. The coach told Burnsy, no more of this thinking you might go to forward and stuff. This is a couple of years ago or whenever he took over Pete DeBoer. You're a defenseman here. And we all know how good he is. And he's going to get an 8-year contract that's going to take him in close to being 40 years old because everybody knows the worth of good defensemen.
You've always said, Sherry, build from the back up.
Absolutely. Goaltending, defense, center ice. Make no mistake about it. I've always believed that. Not that there are very important forwards that have played in this league. But take a look at the Chicago Blackhawks and their blue line. Take a look at the LA Kings when they won in their blue line. Not that Kopitar and all these guys aren't important players. But take a look. Larson. And everybody thought, including, and I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Hey, it's okay.
Okay? Larson. Adam Larson.
To clarify, Sherry and I have got into quite the argument. I defended the New Jersey Devils and said that Taylor Hall was an excellent acquisition for them and that they did not give up enough. Sherry emphasized how good of a move it was by Edmonton to finally get a reliable right-handed defenseman on the back end.
Hard to trade for. People aren't giving up good defensemen. We've had trades in before where a frontline center went for a defenseman, and you know exactly who that is. And so we know, So the point is this. Bufflin with your favorite Winnipeg Jets, where you're from, he gets a 5-year term. So my point is they're so extremely important. And Larson, what a bargain they got on him. He's on a 6-year deal. They got him. And he's just going to get better and better. But in defense of you, that's the price you have to pay to get a good defenseman. That's what people have to know about.
Taylor Hall just went to the All-Star game.
Yeah, there you are. And you were very tough on that. And that's just another example of how important it is.
I'm not exactly giving up on my opinion because I still do believe that the Edmonton Oilers could have gotten more in return, but you are absolutely right in the sense that you have to be willing to part with a huge piece because good defensemen are tough to come by.
When you got a good trade? When both teams feel they got, they both feel that they not necessarily win. You don't want to beat anybody, but they're both very happy with the deal. And both sides are. That's when you got a good trade. That's when you got partners coming back to talk trade again.
Absolutely. All right, Sherry, we're getting ready to conclude the show, but let's talk about the Super Bowl for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, you quickly gave your pick. I want to hear again. why do you think the New England Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl this weekend? Because I actually disagree with you. I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to shock the world and beat Tom Brady and deny him of his 5th Super Bowl, which would make him the all-time winningest Super Bowl quarterback ever.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's going to shock the world because everybody knows how good they are, and Ryan's playing in front of the best offensive line he's ever played in front, and we know first overall pick, okay? So we know his quality, and now he's matured and stuff like that.
Matt Ryan is a 3rd overall pick.
Was he?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In the first round, though. No worries.
I thought he was the top pick. But anyway, here's what I'm going to tell you. Winning is fun. And the New England Patriots have had a lot of fun in the last number of years. They know about winning. They know about challenges. I mean, both teams have talent. Everybody knows that. Both teams are hard-working teams. I don't want to hear that gobbledygook that they tell us. You know what I mean? You don't get this far without talent. Okay? But the New England Patriots, because of their quarterback and their coach, and that's not to suggest that there's not 2 real good coaches, that Atlanta doesn't have a real good coach. But New England knows about winning. And everybody except the New England fans are cheering for Atlanta because they think New England has won so much. Well, that's a bunch of gobbledygook too. I don't believe in that. And their commitment to winning. That's all they talk about. And I'm sure Atlanta is talking about that now. Kyle Shanahan, though, he's committed to winning. He's talked about it. Phenomenal coach. Being rumored going to San Francisco. Deal's done. Wrong thing to be happening a week before a Super Bowl. Wrong thing, because even though you're trying to minimize that and it's not taking any of his time, you don't want anything subtracting from your concentration on winning. And so I'm going with New England because, first of all, I'm a big fan of New England because of the fact that they win all the time.
And if you look at it from the other side, Josh McDaniels, who is really one of the leading candidates, offensive coordinators to become a head coach, said he wants to stay in New England for another year, maybe wait for a different opportunity to come up, and he is in the zone with Bill Belichick. So there's no doubt that the Patriots are going to devise quite the plan for the game. I like Atlanta because I actually think Atlanta's defense is playing at a very, very high level. Maybe it's no secret. And their offense is just so explosive. They're a very well-coached team as well. Dan Quinn is a very, very smart defensive mind.
Well prepared.
Yes, and he shut down the Broncos before moving over to Atlanta. He won that Super Bowl with them.
But New England knows how to win, and knows how to win in key situations, and have proven that numerous times. And anybody that's playing them is going to be hard-pressed to beat that team.
Only one quarterback has defeated Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, and that's Eli Manning. And it's funny because Eli was giving Matt Ryan some tips on how to beat the Patriots, but of course it's a different team.
He can get all the tips he wants.
What are your plans, Sherry?
My plans are, very specifically, even though I'm a hockey advocate, I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. Even though it's like a 7 hour. Is it 7 hours or something? It seems like that.
It's an event.
But I mean, that's the point. It's an event. I'm going to watch it, and I'm looking forward to next week. Keep punching.
You going to watch with Jean? How's she doing?
Jean doesn't know whether it's a football game or a hockey game on. She has no interest in that kind of sport. She just follows it because I happen to be around.
Very nice. Well, I will be watching it as well. So will our producer, Adam Anagnostopoulos, who is great as always.
Speaking about these guys behind the glass, boy, they're well prepared, they're knowledgeable, and they keep us going. See you next week.